Green MP Tamatha Paul has faced more questions over her party's policies on police and prisons after she today admitted she didn't know the full facts behind a claim she'd met a woman imprisoned for stealing $12 worth of goods. Paul has faced a barrage of criticism for suggesting beat police in the capital were solely focused on throwing away homeless people's belongings. Here's senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch.
Designed to deter crime, beat patrols police on the streets, accused by Tamatha Paul of taking the belongings of those who have to live on the streets.
My concerns were that beat patrol policers were using their resources to pack homeless people's stuff up and put it in the bin.
Today, the two social organisations Paul said had told her about the issues spoke out. Downtown Community Ministry said it hadn't made a formal complaint, while the Salvation Army said it wasn't aware of anyone making the statement in an official capacity, but later said a support worker had spoken to Paul about it.
I believe they've raised that with police now, but when I heard it back in October, I don't think that was the case.
Paul's comments have caused an uproar, especially as they came after she spoke at an event where she said she wanted to speak about the abolition of police, which is not the Green Party position.
And what radical kind of police abolition could look like.
The Green Party is quite aligned to people against prisons. Generally, they do believe in police abolition and in prison abolition as well.
That's because those institutions have a track record of enormous harm and racism.
A report commissioned by police in response to the Black Lives Matter movement found police were 11% more likely to prosecute Māori than Pākehā for the same offence.
Systemic bias and systemic racism within our police, and somehow it's a problem that I'm bringing that up in this place.
Confirming again today that abolishing police is not official party policy.
That is not a stated goal of the Green Party.
Though she's standing by criticising foot patrols.
Absolutely, I've had a massive response from people saying that they feel the same way about police, and so it might not be the majority of views, but it's still a significant view that should be represented in this parliament.
She can say what she likes, but she's totally insane.
I think the Prime Minister is extremely privileged. He hasn't had the same upbringing as I have. He hasn't been over-policed like I have in a community like Tokoroa.
Tamatha Paul is the Greens Police, Justice and Corrections spokesperson and says she spends a lot of time talking to those who experience the pitfalls of the justice system.
So I want to commend the fact that Tam is actually one of the few MPs in Parliament who takes time to visit prisons across the country to talk to a section of the population that most politicians wouldn't dare come close to.
Though one of those prison visits has resulted in her defending more comments, namely that she spoke to a woman who was incarcerated for stealing $12 worth of food.
Who should be in prison for shoplifting $12 worth of things because they can't feed themselves? And that is the reality of prisons. There are a lot of people in there because they are poor.
You would not get sent to jail for stealing an item of $12.
When asked whether there were any extra factors that had led to the woman being in prison,
well, I mean, how would I know? I just have these interactions.
Paul had not done any work to corroborate the anecdote she'd heard.
I hear a whole bunch of stories. I don't sit down and interrogate them. I just listen to their stories as I'm a guest in their space.
I just think, again, they make stuff up. And it feels like sometimes they get half the truth and they just fill it in and add what they want to.
I guess I just take people's word for it when they come and talk to me as a Member of Parliament.
It's how she uses those words, putting her under pressure.
Okay, Jenna, how much of a problem is this for the Greens, or is it going to play well for them?
A little bit of both. I think the Greens will probably acknowledge this is not exactly how they want this conversation to play out, all of that talk around police abolition when it really is not their policy, but they do believe in having oversight of the police and accountability of the police and challenging those institutions, the justice system, and standing up for the people who are mistreated by it. And they do believe that a lot of their voters want them to stand up for those people. Where there's a little bit of conflict here is that Tamatha Paul and Chloe Swarbrick represent the electorates of Auckland Central and Wellington Central, both of which have constituents that are really concerned about crime. The other people that would be concerned about this are their potential coalition partners, Labour. They won't want this leaking into how they feel about law and order because they have tried so hard to shake this soft on crime narrative, and the Prime Minister is really seizing on it, trying to link Labour to the Greens on this, bringing up their voting record that they have voted against all of the so-called tough on crime justice reforms that this government has introduced.
Jenna Lynch live from Parliament. Tēnā koe.